I've used Photoshop for years now and been using it to create gradient designs as well as pattern designs and a whole lot more. So how to do all kinds of things with just a very basic gradient. Well, let's just start with a complete fresh document. So File and New and click Create. So I'm just going to go with a standard HD sized document. And the key thing is the gradient tool. Where's the gradient tool? Well, obviously depending on your customization of your tool panel here, just go over here and here's the gradient tool. If you can't find it, it's probably down here in the extra tools. So with the gradient tool, just go up to top and you've got a lot of options here. First thing to do, set it to classic gradient and then just apply. And by default, you will apply a linear gradient. Now the gradient you apply will be probably different from the one I've just got here. So often there's loads and loads of different gradients such as blues, purples, etc. But also Photoshop handily comes with a selection of legacy gradients. Now if you can't find these legacy gradients can be found via the window and gradients. So gradients panel, here's the gradients panel, whole load of gradients here, but you need to go here to the right side menu, click there and legacy gradients. That's all you need to do and you'll get thousands of gradients that you can use in Photoshop. And the next thing is just select one of them. I'm just going to go with one of these color harmony ones. Real great start point and just apply. Now you can apply it with different blending modes. That's in classic gradient. Just applies it as a pixel layer to your image. So you can see as you apply it, and this is linear. So if you want to actually apply it in a straight line straight across, hold down the Shift key and you can click and then drag and you'll just get this basic gradient. You see up here, you've got blue and you've got green and of course you've got all the colours in between and it's straight across now with this design. But you can do a whole lot more than that by using a really useful, this one, window and channels, just this panel. And here's the channels panel. And you've got RGB here. So instead of just using RGB, you can actually use your gradient in the red or the green or the blue. Now, if you're using the gradients in CMYK document, you'll notice you'll get cyan, magenta, etc. there. But if you're using RGB, you'll get like red, green and blue. So you can see the result of that gradient there. But it does mean if you select the red, you can now apply the gradient just to the red channel. So it's just applied to the red channel, just the parts that are the red channel in the gradient as well. But it does mean instead of applying it across, you can go a different direction. So you can go, say, downwards and click and drag and release. And then you can see if I go back now to RGB, you can just click there and that's all you need to do. Just click on the red and to go back, just click on RGB and they're all active again. You can see straight away you've got quite an unusual gradient just applied with just a basic color harmony gradient up here. Now you could use it linear, but you can also select different ones here. You've got a radial type. So instead, let's just go for red again and just apply it again. And you can see now, obviously the data that I put in before is now wiped out again by this, just applying this gradient to the red. But exactly the same as before, just click RGB and now you can see you've got the original gradient you had in green and blue, but also you've now got this variation that you've just added in red. Now if you want to create even more variations with this, a really great way of doing it is just go here to the mode. You can see it's set to normal. As normal, it will just replace what you've got there with the new one. So if I just apply it again, you can see everything I put before has been wiped out. The red, the green and blue, all now set to this gradient. But you can go here and go, instead of normal, you can go to difference or any of the others, of course. You can use a whole load of different ones. So you've got here difference. But difference is great because now when you apply it, it will create the result of the difference between obviously the gradient I'm just going to create and what was already there. So if it was an image, different image, if it's a car or I don't know, an Amazon product, anything like that, instead you'll get then a blend. So you get the Amazon product or car or whatever blended with that difference. And you can see you can create some truly unique designs just by using the blending mode of difference. And you can do much the same with opacity as well. So you can just go up here, opacity, you can reduce this down, and you can use this without changing it from normal. So you can just apply it, and you can see then you'll get some very subtle applications of that colour across using 40%. And you can of course reduce it down, apply it 12, and you can see then again subtle different. And you can of course vary the position of where you start and how the length of the gradient. So you can click, that's the start point, and the length as you drag it out, and you can reposition it like that to create subtle changes. However, you can use all these settings, and I'm just going to push this up to 100% again, with the channels again. Exactly the same as before. So instead you can go to the red, and this will just apply the red of this gradient. So I'm just going to the red channel, and I'm going to go with a different start position. And I can go to the green, and I can apply it again. And then I can go to the blue and click and apply it again. And now you can see you get this like colourful crisscross of designs because it's got that sort of ridge in the gradient. So if I go back to the RGB, you can see you get this lovely sort of light effect that sort of goes through the image, sort of rainbow light kind of effect, I guess. But you got that. But you can also, of course, modify the colours with other options as well in Photoshop. I mean, Photoshop is loaded with some great tools. Really useful one is window and adjustments. So you could use the adjustments there. You've got lots of presets you can just simply select. So adjustments, and then you can see here, you've got a load of different ones here. See portrait, color effects, etc. So loads of different ones, creative ones. Simply click there, and that will apply effect to that image there. Now, the result may or may not be exactly what you want. And if you don't like it, you can always just delete it like that. So let's just delete that by just going to the delete at the bottom, and you've got back to your original design. And of course, what you can do, you can go here to the red again and apply it again. So you can just create all kinds of different effects just by going to here to the red, green, and the blue. But also you can combine it with blending modes. So you've just got here, blending modes, red. I'm just going to go up here and select it to difference. Now you'll notice that some of the options are not available. Hue, saturation, etc. They're just not available for those channels. And you can see other ones like lighter color, dark color are not available as well, and behind. So when you go back to RGB, you'll get the full access again to all of the options. But here you've only got, like I said, difference. So I'm just going to select difference. And now you can see the result. And again, this is just applied to the red. And if I go up here, click here, you can see now you get this lovely sort of subtle colours flowing through the image. You've got the greens in there, and you can do exactly the same with the green. Let's just apply that, and again, get something like that. So literally thousands of different colourful designs can be created just by using this channels feature. Now you could also combine it with layers. So over here you've got layers panel, that's window and layers. All these options, these panels are available here. Now the active one is layers. You can see it's active in the window and layers there. And you can always add additional layers. So layer and go to new, a new layer, or just go down here to the little plus and just click there, and you've added a new one. And then you can click again and apply another gradient. Now that's only applied to this new layer. So you can see again, you've got exactly the same, and I'm using just the same gradient. You could, of course, change gradient. You don't have to go with, you could go with any of the gradients you've got here. You can also modify the gradient. So if you want to change it, you think, you know what, I like this, but I don't want this. I don't just want this. Well, I want to just maybe click there, and then when you just click it, you get this gradient editor, and you can modify it just subtly. You don't have to change it in a big way. You can also click here. You've got different options here. Foreground, background you can use, or just click and then maybe change the blue to maybe make it a slightly lighter blue, or change colour completely, make it green, etc. And then you got this, click OK, and now you can apply that. but you can apply it to this layer. And as before, you can go to the red, and now you can apply this to that, and that's just applied again to this layer, the current layer here. And the green, let's just apply that, and now blue, and just apply it again. Now, when you go back here, RGB, you've got this combination. At this point, it's just applied as normal. That means you cannot see the underlying gradient. Now I can change the opacity. So if I change the opacity, so I reduce the opacity for that layer, so you can actually see what's underneath. Obviously the opacity is 34%. You can reduce it down, so it's very subtle, or leave it 100% and just use blend modes. So again, you can just change these, run through these. Now some will result in some very odd color effects like that, but also you can go with, say, difference or hard mix and so on. You can see some produce some really weird and wonderful colors. I'm just going to go with this one, pin light, but you can just try it out and create all kinds of designs. Once you've done that, you can go to layer and then flatten image if you just want it all in a single layer. And now you can zoom in, you can see the result of that. You can see it's a really super colorful design, which would be very difficult to create just using a single gradient. If you're just applying with the gradient tool, it will be very hard to create anything like that. So just a combination of using the channels as well as using layers and of course blending modes as well. Let's just go up back to normal, set it all to there. Let's just remove these, because another great thing about this is that you can always go over here. You've got here libraries. Libraries are great. You can find that in window and libraries. Again, you can see it's the active panel that I'm using. And down the plus, down the bottom here, you can change the library. I've got lots of different libraries. These are all stored on your cloud account. So you can always just go and click on there. And you can see I've got lots of, now sometimes I've got different things that maybe should not be in the gradients, but they're just added there because that was the library I was in when I created them and I haven't moved them. You can move them by simply going to it and right clicking, and you've got options to move, duplicate, etc. But also you can go down here to the plus and you can add that image. So if you want to store it away, maybe use it as a layer, maybe use it as a background, maybe use it as displacement maps, use it as all kinds of different things, maybe use it with text, all that sort of thing. And you can simply just click the graphic and it's stored away in your current library for future use. And if you want to use it, simply just drag and there it is, been added. And you can then resize it. You can see that's just a layer. When you go over here to layers, you've got two layers. Now the name, of course, is background as well. Doesn't particularly matter. You can always rename it. You can move it around and then press return. And now you can see you've got this design, you've got two layers again. You can also go here to blend mode, run through, lighten, screen, etc. So you can see there I'm going to go with screen, layer, and again, flatten image. And again, I think that looks a great design. I love that sort of surreal, sort of alien landscape with very unusual design like that. Maybe something like for Star Trek or Star Wars or something like that sort of design. You could use it as a great background. Again, you can save it. Just go here to the little plus. And now, sometimes, weirdly, if it's not selected there, let's just deselect that. And again, click here. You'll notice that it's not, the option doesn't come up. Now, select that. And you can drag it across and you'll notice that it doesn't do anything. So there's some weird features. Sometimes you'll find that solution there. I always do is generally just save it. Just save it, file, and then go to save as. Just save it as a PSD document and then start up Photoshop again. It does seem to be the odd quirk where suddenly what you have with the foreground color, you just got no option for graphic. I do not know why, nor is there the options to creating patterns and other designs. So I say just save it to a normal file and save as, maybe to your cloud, and then restart Photoshop. So save as, and I'm just going to save it to my desktop. I don't want to save that one thing, so I'm just going to save it 1.psd and click OK. And now restart Photoshop. Okay, I've restarted Photoshop, and now if I go to my libraries, you can see now in the plus, you've got the option here, extract, graphic, etc. So then I can save it, graphic. It's just one of those weird quirks in Photoshop that it doesn't always have all the options available there for some weird reason. Well, once you've got your image, what can you do with it then? Well, you've got great options here in this libraries function, as long as this is available, this plus, and it should be available. So if it's not available, like say, restart Photoshop. So here, click plus, and you've got here, extract from image. So extract from image, click there. And now in here, you've got patterns, you've got shapes. Now for this case, I'm just going to quickly show you the gradient. Gradient is great if you want to create some new gradients that you think, wow, that is really beautiful. Very easy way of doing it is use this. Just go to extract from image. This is one of the most powerful features, I think, in Photoshop, tucked away in sort of sub panel, which is very strange, but you can then simply move this over and you can see as you move these stops, and that's what you got there. You got the blue, and as you change it, it hovers over the image. So if you see lovely color like green there, you got some maybe pink there, you can see the color you get there, got the color there, and you can move it, say, to the blue. All kinds of different colourful designs can be created. Now I'm only using 3 stops here, but I can simply just change the number of stops there. You don't have to. You can just keep it as something like that. And with that, you've got all these options, and you can save this to your library. So save to CC library, you can just click there, and you'll see then it adds it to the current one, the current library stored away, and now you can change it. You just come over here, you might see more than 1 or 2 gradients in this. So I can just love that there and love the lines there. And again, save to CC libraries. And you can just keep doing this over and over again. Maybe drag that up. You've got some lovely yellow there, maybe lighter blue, and all kinds of different designs. Now, what you can also do is you've got here, just click there. You've got this one, you can change it. And you've got an option here. Let's see, what does this do? Just click there, copied. So you can store it away and go here. Now you'd think, copied, that there would be an option for pasting. Weirdly, there isn't. So that doesn't appear to be much of use. So again, save to CC libraries, you got that. So let's just close that now. I've just done enough of those, saved numerous ones of these gradients. And the great thing about it is now you can use them in Photoshop, but they're not stored away in your gradients panel. You've got a gradients panel down here. You know, you've got lots and lots of gradients. These ones are all various gradients from my website. And you can see a gradient down the bottom I created using the same process that I've been going through. So now go to the libraries and you can right click any of these gradients. You can see I've got quite a few here, and I can right click and then you can create a gradient. Now you can apply it, but personally I always prefer to use the create gradient preset. And I always think it's a pity that the feature within the libraries feature doesn't actually do that in the first place, which would be nice, but you have to do it outside. So let's just go from that one to that one. Just simply click them, create gradient preset, click that one. And you can see as you do that, it changes there, but it just would be nice if you could just create the gradient preset within the actual gradient creation. So I've got those gradients now stored away in gradients. So I can just simply go to the gradients panel, window and gradients, and you can see them there. So let's just drag that down, and then you can see, just click there. It's not dragging across in this case. You can just click and it's applied. And you can see what you get. You get this layer, gradient fill layer, which you can manipulate. You can add masks. There's a mask option here, as you can see there. But also here, you can double click and it brings this up, the gradient fill. So at any point, if you want to change this gradient, all you get are the stops, the gradient stops. So you've got all the colours, you've got the pinks, etc., from here, from the gradients. But what you do get here is you can now change it. So you can go for radial. And while it's open, let's just move that there, you can just drag this around. So you can reposition it to create, say, a gradient like that. And you can also change the scale. So you just reduce that down, move that around, reposition it, and you can see the result of your gradient, and then click OK. Also, what you can do is you can go back here and I'm just going to go to layer and flatten image. I don't want this as a layer now, so simply just layer and flatten image, or just delete it, of course. With this, I can now go to the gradient tool again. So let's just go to the gradient tool, which is here. And again, you can see the gradient I had before. That's not updated. Only updated when you select one here. So you can see as you do that, you get your gradient there. And again, you can go and change them. If you want to edit that gradient, you can change it here. But it's simply select and then select here, the type, and also the blend. And again, you can go for license, etc., or difference, and then apply it. And you can see just by applying a couple of times, different origin points, different lengths, you can create all kinds of unique designs. And again, if you want, if it lets you, just go over here, little plus, and again, graphic. So you can just quickly add that new design. But you've also got the option, of course, to apply effects to it as well. So you can, if you want, simply go to filter, and then go down here, you've got distort, you've got things like wave, so wave there, and you've got here 5, that's the default, but you can always, and I personally prefer it set to 1, just reduce down. If you push it too high, you can see the result there. Very small preview, not the greatest of previews, but you can stretch it all the way to 999, but you can also set it to 1, and I prefer that. And you can see then you can create some interesting wave designs by just changing the wavelength there, as well as the amplitude. And you can see you can distort it and stretch it out to create some truly oddball designs. But also super useful is these options. You've got wrap around or repeat, go for that, or change it to triangle as well as square. The square creates some really oddball abstract designs, break, fragmented designs I just think are absolutely stunning. But also sine, and you can see with that you can randomize. Just click that and you can see in that very little preview the sort of result you're going to get. Obviously it's not going to be matched exactly because it is a very small preview. You might have a very big document. So click randomize, I like that design, click OK, and then you get the result like that. And again, all kinds of different designs can be created. Also using this can be used as displacement maps, use it as a background layer, use it with type, masks, anything this can be used with. And also, of course, you can apply other effects to it, filters, stylize, and oil paint. One that I always like, because you get these like very sharp edges here, which you may want, you may not. And I always find that oil paint, just simply apply an oil paint. You can apply it a couple of times and it will just smear that design a little bit. So you can create a slightly more interesting design. But you can also go to image, auto tone, and just brighten it up a bit, I think. Sometimes you might prefer edit and undo and just keep it as is. You can also apply the wave effect multiple times. Simply just go to filter and then just down to wave. You of course can go down to distort again and apply distort and wave there and vary the settings. But you can also just simply go to wave and apply again. And you can see now you get a really weird, sort of psychedelic, really surreal design just by applying it once. You can also, of course, go to filter and again, wave, and you get that. Now it's starting to stretch into sort of more, I don't know, it's got strands and different lines through it. It's perhaps not exactly what I want, but of course you can push it as many times as you want. And now it becomes very surreal, sort of blood vessel-like, weird, unusual design. I'm just going to undo. And I'm actually just going to go back to the original and then just go wave, apply it once. Because the next thing you can do is edit and then fade wave. And this is a great way of creating really some truly weird and wonderful wave effects. And fade and just go through the blend modes. So darken. Unfortunately, Photoshop doesn't process it as you do it. You have to wait for it to actually process it. You have to select it. It doesn't, as you run through, there won't be any change. Would be nice if it did. Some places in Photoshop, it does that. In this case, it doesn't. So overlay and difference. Now difference, I find, is always one of the best. But you can obviously go maybe exclusion and just see what you like. I'm just going to go with difference and click OK. And of course, you can still continue to manipulate this. So with this, you can go here to image and adjustments and maybe vibrance, go for colour balance, or maybe go for invert. Sometimes it reverse. No, that one doesn't look so great. I think I'll stick with that. But image, auto tone, always like to try that because I think this brings out the colours even more. And then once you've got this, you can then go to filter and again just go with oil paint because you can see there's some lines here. But now you can get this lovely smoothing effect. So filter, oil paint a couple of times. If you apply it a few times, unfortunately I always find oil paint dulls the image. So again, image, adjustments and levels. Let's just brighten this up a bit and just do set down. I think just there, squeeze that bottom bit and click OK. And that's using the input levels there. So just squeeze these two together. And I think that just makes a much nicer looking, weird and wonderful gradient design, which of course, again, as before, you can save to your library. So libraries over here, and then just go down the bottom if it's available, because of course, as always, these things, sometimes you'll find that suddenly Photoshop will not make it available. And graphic, but also exactly the same as before, you can now go here and extract from image. So this little plus, extract from image, and you could use gradients. So again, you've got gradients, you've got even more opportunity for creating some truly unique gradients. Got a lot more colours in this. Simply push up the stops there and you can see, just do that. And then I'm just going to click that one, save to CC library. But you can go back to pattern. Now in this case, you might want to change the scale. So you can see, you can just scale it up a bit and you can move it around and reposition it. I love sort of pattern designs that sort of flow like that. Got this lovely flow. And you've got 4 other options you can use. So you can select those. I think that one looks nice as well. And again, you can move it around. And I think just about there. Again, you can change the scale, change the rotation, but save to CC libraries. And you can always then go for maybe a different one. You can change that. Now, if you push it out too far, you lose a lot of the colour. You push it too like that, I think it just becomes quite overly complex patterns, which may be what you want. A lovely tile system like that. Save to CC libraries, and it's saved away. Again, this, you can close it, and now you can see you've got your patterns. Now they're patterns this time, they're not gradients. So you can see it's stored away in the patterns. Conveniently, it does let you do that, just puts it into the category section within here. So you can see you've got the backgrounds, but here you've got patterns, and you can now apply it. Just drag it over here, and now you've got your pattern design. And just go over here to layers. In layers, you can see you've got a pattern layer. Great thing is you can just go here. This is what's selected. You can also select, of course, the mask here, and you can change the name, etc. But you can also double click this, and this will bring up a pattern fill. And this panel, you can then go here and say, you know what, I want that as 25. And you can see your design there, and you can, while this panel is available here, you can move it around. So you can just create this sort of design. You can change the angle. So you might want to like go there, hold down the shift. So you will go in increments. So you go minus 45, minus 60, etc. And you can see you get a design like that. And again, you can push that maybe to say 10. You can go too far, or maybe go the other way. 200, you can push it outwards, which sometimes doesn't always get the result you want because you can see the imperfections there. But say 50. So 50, you got that, and click OK. Well, it's a layer, and you can duplicate layer. So with this layer selected, you can go to layer, and then you go down to duplicate layer, and click OK. You've got 2 pattern layers now. At the moment, of course, what you can see is it's on top of the previous one. Well, you can always move it. So again, go here, this bit here, and double click. And this brings the panel up. You can reposition it. And with that, you can also change the scale. So maybe go with 25. So you do that. Or, of course, you don't have to go with the same pattern. I've got a lot of other patterns here that you could use. But I'm going to go with this one and click OK. And then you can go over here and you've got the blend modes. This is the top layer. So at the moment it's normal, so you can't see anything below. It's 100%, can't see anything below. But now, when you go over here, you can go here to darken. And it's probably good idea to actually do this before you actually do the pattern layer, so you can move it around and position it. And you go maybe screen. And again, this time I will double click and now I can reposition it. So you can always say, oh, you know what, I think I prefer it there, or maybe it works better with 50. Exactly the same settings. And you can reposition it on top like that, move it around and click OK. So you've got this real weird and wonderful complex combined pattern design now. Now it's still layers. So if you want, you can then just simply go to layer and then flatten image. So it all just gets flattened down into a single design. And move the swatches here, again, I just drag there, put them together. And with that, let's just move that one as well. Library. Now, exactly the same as before, because I like design, I can save it. Go to the plus, click there, and graphic. And it's stored away again here, which you can then simply click and select and drag, and you can then resize it just using transform tools here. Resize it all kinds of different ways. Obviously you can push it too far, which is not too good, but I'm just going to go with that. And now you can see here I've got show transform controls. When you've got the move tool selected, this is the key thing. If you've got that turned off, you won't see the bounding box. You can't resize it so easily. So click there, show transform controls, and then you can resize it. You've got these controls to do that. And now you've got 2 layers. So again, go through, darken, and you can see then you can try out different combinations. And I'm just going to go with maybe difference. Difference actually looks a bit messy. So exclusion, lighten, sometimes lighten, screen, I always love. So that, and then layer, flash image again. And if you want to, filters and oil paint. Again, that's in stylized and oil paint. And just apply that a couple of times just to make it slightly a bit more smeary like that. And then image, auto tone. And that is the end result for that. But the great thing about this is you can use this as a great source for additional patterns. I always love just going over here and simply go here, select here the rectangular marquee tool, select that and select this area or any part of the area, obviously of the image. You can move it around as long as you've got no feather, as long as the feather is set to 0, so you haven't got any blurring around the edge. You can then go to edit and define pattern. If this is not available, the define pattern, reason being, probably in most cases, is that the image is just too big. So if you've gone for a really large image, then define pattern maybe is not available. It has to be a certain size. So define pattern, you can just store that away. And then you can also simply just go to edit and copy, edit and paste. And then you've got this. You've got this lovely column. Now the column, let's just resize it. You could, of course, make it the whole size of there. Just put it, drag down there. And with this, hold down the Alt or Option key and just drag. And you can see then you've got that. You've got 2. Well, with 2 layers here, this layer being selected again, you've got show transform there. You can go to edit, transform, and then you can go here, flip horizontal. And then you can see now you've got this lovely combination design and so on. There's like literally thousands of ways you can create pattern designs. And these 2 layers, of course, you can select together, both selected like that, layer and merge layers. Just that uses the 2 layers that are selected, so merge layers, and then you've got this design. And then hold down the Alt or Option key, again, hold down the Alt or Option key and drag. And you can see as you do that, you build up a complex pattern design very easily. And let's just move that around. Oh, let's just get rid of that. It's out in the way. So just hold down the Alt or Option key and drag again. And you can see then you can build this up and you've got a design like that. And of course, each of those individual ones, you can modify different factors of it. Just go to different filter effects. They're just layers that can be with different effects. So filter can be applied to any of the selected layers and modify them to create, again, different unusual design. So all of this was created basically with a gradient tool using channels as well as layers. So exactly the same as before, simply go here and select the gradient tool, select any of the type of gradients you want, and you can click here, and you've got all these ones here, mainly the best lot, I think, are these ones, the legacy gradients. So just expand this out. You've got colour harmonies, you've got neutral, and so on. So colour harmonies, let's just go with something slightly different. So select that one and just simply go for here. Just use linear and click. Again, I'm using classic gradient, and you can see you can apply this across the image. Difference blending mode, you can click and drag different lengths, and then you can achieve all kinds of unique gradients simply by just using this. But also, exactly the same as before, you can go to your channels, go to red, and then just do exactly the same, just apply it like that. And that is just applied to the red channel. Click there, apply it to the green channel, and click the blue and apply it very rapidly to the blue one. And you can create a very complex gradient, which click RGB, there is the gradient, and you can then of course manipulate it using all kinds of other effects, such as of course filter, and one I was using wave, so just apply it again, you can see the effect there, or maybe filter, and there's many other distorts as well. Maybe use displace, use twirl, so a twirl effect like that, click OK. So instead of having it obviously straight lines, you get a lovely bend in your gradient design very quickly like that. But also, great thing about this is you can click red and instead go from top to bottom. And then you get this lovely weird combination of, now I'm going to go green, gain different lengths, click and use that, again click and then hold down the shift, so you get it nice straight line going downwards, and you've got that, click RGB, and you see you've got this like shimmering sort of curtain-like effect. Very quick and easy by using channels. And again, you can use multiple layers. You don't have to just use one layer. You can use multiple backgrounds there, or of course create a new layer, etc. And again, apply filters to this, twirl, etc., to create a nice shimmery sort of curve to that, I don't know, curtain-like effect. Well, I hope you found this of interest. Any thoughts and questions, please let me know in the comments below. Always great to hear from you. A like or dislike, always appreciated. Bye.